Yeah, I don't know if you can still hear it in my voice. It's still, like...
I hear it a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it's still not great. Yeah, she came home Friday with 101 fever. Took her right to the doctor. Yeah, the doctor was like, it's probably a virus, but it might be antibiotics. We're going to put the script through, but don't fill it until she doesn't get better, which just sucks as a parent because you never know if you're doing the right thing. And then she just kept having this fever fluctuating up and down Saturday. And then Sunday I got sick. I got pretty sick Sunday, but Monday I just couldn't get out of bed. Honestly, it felt like mini COVID, weirdly enough. But then Tuesday I started to get better. But you know the great and all-powerful rule of Zach, he will get better, his voice will not. So my voice is staying weirdly hoarse and in this area. But yeah, so
well,
all right.
It took like 4 months last time. Your voice eventually did improve.
Well, and it hasn't gone all the way downhill yet, you know. So I gotta wait and see. Hopefully, it'll just get better. But the problem is every time a kid goes back to school, it's like petri dish sickness. That's how it rolls, you know. Like first September's the worst. You're always sick in September and October. There's just nothing you can do as a parent because once they start going to school, they just all get back together and all that bacteria starts floating around and then they bring it home and then everybody's sick.
Time to get your fix. It's a horrible gaming podcast. It's not good, it's not great. Horrible gaming podcast. It's not even what you would call fair. It's really not that good. Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Hello, my name is Zach Wright with Old Man Gaming, and you, dear listener, for whatever reason, have decided to listen to another horrible gaming podcast. I am not alone. Usually I am never alone. With me is...
Neil, a.k.a. Tiny Wizard.
And yeah, so last week, just want to say to everybody, sorry about that. I got sick. Real sick. Real sick. Got better, obviously.
Never.
It was a rough weekend. I don't want to go into it, but my kid came home Friday, and it snowballed from there. And I was not recording anything Sunday. I didn't even get out of bed Monday, so it was a rough day. So we didn't get to record. Sorry to everybody about that. That being said, it has been a terrible fucking week. Terrible 2 weeks for video games. All the way around. We're gonna talk about it. Can't not talk about it.
We're going to bitch about it.
Here's what we're going to do. We're not going to do a talking point because the news is so explosive and ridiculous. We're just going to do news.
Explosive.
I've got a bunch of things.
Thick diarrhea.
I've got a bunch of things to talk about and bitch about too. Like this week, I even sent Neil like 2 or 3 news stories to talk about. So it's going to be just that and fan interaction. Hope you guys are okay with that. And sorry for the cloud of negativity that is rolling in on the horizon. But before we get into that, we have to thank the people who make this shit show possible. Behind our ugly mugs is a custom graphic that was provided by Mr. Mark Bell. Thank him for that. And then, of course, the theme song for this show and all of the shows here at Old Man Gaming is provided by the man who makes music, my brother Nick Van Sliders. We thank him for that. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back with fan interaction.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, it brings us to our first segment, our most important segment, that is fan interaction. That's where we, the co-hosts, we talk to you guys, the fans. We read out your comments and your stuff anywhere we see them, and then remember to read them out. So, yeah, like I said, this was 2 weeks ago. Sorry about that, guys. Nothing I could do about it. Sickness is what sickness is. So we start with William Hoolan. High exclamation point. Gosh, I hate spiders. Can't help it. The worst is when you see one and then you lose it. Yeah. That's why I was saying don't tell Kayla, and then I put it on the podcast anyway.
She was mad.
I definitely ratted you out. Like as I was putting it in, I was like, he's gonna be mad about this. I'm surprised I didn't get like a fuck you text halfway through the week. To continue, he says, I agree with Neil. I don't feel we'll get a new Castlevania game. We'll get a new Castlevania game. They're going to stick to re-release and collections. Making a new Castlevania game would take a lot of effort. You don't want to make Konami do that. You're not a monster, are you? On the games, on the game subscription thing, I feel the more games I have access to, the less games I play. Thanks for the show. Hashtag losing a spider is the worst. So, to talk about that real quick, here's my thing. It wouldn't really cost them any effort because they could fucking lend this property out. Like Wizard of the Coast did with Larian. Like, there are hundreds, literally hundreds of developers out there who would salivate uncontrollably at the option to create a Castlevania game series that Konami can publish. And Konami can publish it and take the lion's share of the cash for doing zero work. So, like, do that, man. Do that.
And there is success for this. With Castlevania, actually. The mirror, I can't remember the name of it. It's the one that I played the absolute least of. It was a 3DS title that followed, I think it was Trevor, that was like an in-between between the Lords of Shadow 1 and 2.
Okay.
But it was done by, I believe it was Mercury Steam. And they did just fine. And actually, Mercury Steam is the ones who did Metroid, the remake of 2 and Dread. Retro does did the Prime series. Mm-hmm. There are many success stories of this. I don't know what their problem is. They just want to sit on it and be bought out, I guess.
Way Forward as a company literally makes all their money doing this. WayForward and .mu. This is like what they do is find licenses that nobody wants to make anymore and then make new games out of them that are successful. River City Girls, Streets of Rage 4, the Ninja Turtle side scroller, like, and that's, I know those are all side scrollers, but they also have platformers. I'm just not as familiar with them. This is what they do. There are companies out there that just do this, like just this. Give it to them. I'm going to tell you right now, I'll go on record, I don't want to see Konami make another Castlevania game. I think they're way too out of touch with it. That's not what that company does anymore. They're so far removed from actually making quality games that I don't want to see them make another Castlevania game because I think it would be shit. Give it to somebody else. Or not even give it, like license it out. Take your cut. Nobody's saying don't get your cash, but like you could be, there's so much more money on that table that they're not utilizing. You know? Mm-hmm. And then on the game subscription game, more access to game. And that's true. I mean, it's tricky. It's a real tricky thing because games are so much different than movies or TV. They're not things you can consume in even 3 sittings. They're things that like take a really long time and a lot of hours of devotion to them. So while you can put on paper the value of a Game Pass subscription, such as I have access to 200 games that would be anywhere between $20 to $70 each for free for just this $9.99 subscription, how many of them are you going to play? Again, I do think it's a great value. It was a great value. I don't think Ultimate's a good value. And we are definitely going to talk about a bunch more evil shit that Microsoft is doing later on in our ranty news segment. So I don't want to get too in the weeds on it right now.
We're having a very traditional episode today.
Very traditional because all my faith in I'm going to say this. Here's my teaser for what we're going to talk about today. I'm calling it. I am no longer heralding the gaming company, the AAA gaming's collapse. We are watching it happen. In real time, it has already started. It's happening. We're watching it.
The silver-haired surfer has arrived.
Yes, yeah, exactly. No, Galactus has arrived.
Wow.
I was the fucking surfer. The Galactus is here, man.
Galactus is
He's here, and Reed Richards is dead. Okay. All right. So,
and what's worse, it's the cloud version of Galactus.
No,
it's not even actual.
It's not even a cool.
Galactus.
You're right. We don't go out with a bang. We go out with a whimper. Okay, so continuing. Jason then says, you always read these backwards. Here's why I read these backwards, my friend. Because I'm going to explain this so that everybody can understand. Because I could understand some frustration with this. The reason is, when I go to look at it in the analytics section, like the only way to get the full, complete comments is to look at it in my Creator Studio, in the comments section, in my manage videos section. The problem is that YouTube really, really, really doesn't want to show you all the comments. And in fairness to YouTube, as much as I'd love to bash them, this system is set up for people who have hundreds of thousands of comments and hundreds of thousands of viewers. So like it's only showing relevant or highly like interactive comments. The problem with this though is when you have smaller amounts of viewers and smaller amounts of comments, what it will do is this. If I've reacted to something, like even thumbs it up, it won't show it on the main screen. What I have to do then is I have to mark off I have to mark it off so that I can see every comment. But even then, it blacks out certain comments because what the selection will be is I can't remember what the selection is. There's like 3 different selections, and the one it starts on is like topical or something like that. I have to hit newest. It's the only way I have found to make sure that I can see all of your comments that YouTube has not deleted or blacked out. So when I hit newest, though, it arranges it in whatever order it believes it came in at. So that's why sometimes these are read out of order, because that's the only surefire way I can see all of your comments. So I apologize for that. It's going to continue. There's nothing I can do about it. But that's why. Jason then continues, I have been playing Core Keeper, and it ain't when I ain't sailing the Sea of Thieves or wandering around the fog hooking people or being hooked. Speaking of fog, they vastly decreased the fog on the maps, and it seems so much less DBD, just that change. Sea of Thieves or wandering around the fog hooking people. Huh? Speaking of fog, am I missing something? What fog?
Is he talking about, what is it, Dead by Daylight?
Yeah, but
Hooking people?
speaking of fog, they vastly decreased the fog in the maps, and it seems so much less DBD, just that change.
Yeah,
Oh, I see. So just Dead by Daylight.
Something
Okay.
about, yeah.
I get it. I'm misreading it because I thought it was comparing it to Dead by Daylight.
You read so good.
I read good though, right? Yeah, read good.
You're so good.
Read
so
good.
So good.
Right?
The most good.
Hey, I'll read out all your comments. I won't. I mean, that could be a curse.
I read them right.
Yeah, I never said that. Core Keeper does look interesting. I think if I had 4 people to play that with, I would play that. That does look interesting, honestly. Continuing, he says, Concord already failed spectacularly. There are people sitting at 98% achievement because the other 2% require matches they can't get into. Well, not only that, they're taking it offline. They're shutting all their servers down. So and they're refunding people, which I must give them credit for that. And then he actually commented again and said, and Concord was canceled. So yeah, it's canceled. They refunded everybody. I thought we talked about this on the last podcast, but maybe we just talked together.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was actually on the podcast or not, but I know it was. The failing was happening. I'll have to consult my notes.
Overall, it canceled. It's canceled. They're shutting down the servers, and they're sending everybody who bought the game a refund, which weirdly has done some very strange things in the gaming service. And personally, I do want to shout out the fact that they're giving a refund for this. We
did not talk about it.
We did not talk about
the actual shutdown.
All right. So they shut it down. They're giving everybody a refund. What I find interesting about the refund, though, is I don't think I've ever seen this, like with like a game closing so fast and them actually giving refunds for it. I mean, even Cyberpunk 2077, still waiting, motherfuckers. Like they didn't give the refunds. Like refunds are one of the hardest things in gaming to get. So I actually appreciate that they're willing to send out refunds to anybody who purchased this game. That being said, because it is such a unique situation, it has created all sorts of weirdness. There's a petition now for them to turn servers back on so that people who do own the game can play it, even if it's like almost nobody. There is also a bunch of people who are running around trying to actually purchase the physical copy of it because of the fact...
stupidest thing.
Just as a collector's thing, which is... I agree, it's fucking stupid, but like... There's all sorts of weird kind of phenomena around this because of the way PlayStation has done this. And, you know, we've talked about it a lot just in general. Concord didn't look like a bad game. It's just there's too much in this field, this hero shooter field. There's too much there. There's not enough innovation. And, like, there's nothing you can do. You know what I mean? It's too much. It's hubris killing it, you know?
It's one of those things. Well, Sony's full of that hubris lately, but we'll get into that.
We'll get into it.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, I was watching a thing about it, and Concord started development, I think it was 8 years ago. Back when the hero shooter thing was still, I wouldn't say new, because Overwatch has still been around for about a decade. But, I mean, new enough to where it could potentially have a foothold. But now, I mean, especially, like, it was a live service game you had to pay for. I feel like, especially with something like a hero shooter, I mean, all games are different. You know, there's no way around that, you know. And that's a more nuanced side of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, broad strokes, a live service game really lends itself more towards a free-to-play model. Mm-hmm. But, you know, that's the risk, and that's why nobody's, you know, taking risks on even, like, new IP anymore, because the amount of time and money and energy and marketing that has to go into these things, even though Concord barely had any marketing, but that's beside the point. All of the amount of resources that goes into making one of these games, you have to almost have that guaranteed return on investment. And the writing was very much on the wall right from the jump. They couldn't get good numbers on that game right from go.
Well, there was no advertising, and they were charging $40 for it, just like we talked about.
Yet, the wildest part about all of this is it's going to be in one of those next level episodes on Prime.
Yeah.
So it's even wilder now. Yeah. I wouldn't even be surprised if they pulled that episode from Next Level.
Yeah, they specifically said they're not going to, which is weird.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, here's my thing. Okay, so Overwatch comes out 2016. All right, that's when Overwatch came out. The first Overwatch game was 2016, which was exactly 8 years ago. So Concord has been in development for 8 years. So, okay, so I believe Overwatch comes out. Everybody goes, we need hero shooters. So everybody starts developing their hero shooter. Here's the problem, though, okay? How many hero shooters have managed to come out? Because I don't believe there were any hero shooters in production until Overwatch came out. Like, every one of these Overwatch clones started development when Overwatch came out. Valorant's come out since then. Rogue whatever has come out since then. If you can't make a game in 8 years that's a copy of another game, then you shouldn't be making it. Or, at the very least, you need to adapt to the times. Yes, Overwatch charged a premium price when it came out. We don't live in a world where you can charge premium prices for games like this anymore, because they're a dime a dozen for free-to-play. I can name 3 free-to-play games that are exactly like Overwatch, and that includes Overwatch's sequel. So, like, I think that, like, we are at a place where, like, you can't do that, and then you come out and you release this, like, this game that is clearly an Overwatch thing 8 years after. Like, you missed the boat. And again, this is something that I've been talking about for a long time, is it's all about coulda, not shoulda, with game companies. Why is this game in development for 8 years? Why is any game in development for 8 years? There's no reason for it. There's no fucking reason for it. there's no reason to try and make it look that good. Especially this one. This is a hero shooter. You're not doing some sort of narrative, like groundbreaking, cinematic, operatic masterpiece. It's a fucking hero shooter. What are you doing for 8 years? Like, I know that we don't like to blame the developers on this. And I, 99% of the time, am completely for that, not blaming the developers. That being said, 8 years is too long to work on a fucking game like this. It just is. Like, you only have yourselves to blame. That you took 8 years to make a Overwatch copy and then try to sell it for like a premium price with microtransactions in it. That's unacceptable, you know? And I don't think there should, like, if your game is going to require that kind of turnaround, you shouldn't be making it. You should be making something else. Something not as big, something not as dumb. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day about like big open world games, and like Star Wars Outlaws. We were bitching about that a little bit, and then that snowballed into like some of Bethesda's newer games like Starfield and stuff. It seems like every game nowadays is, how big can we make it without thinking about how the content in the thing that you're making works and how it tells a story and how it engages with the player. All we're thinking is, look at what we can do. That's what Starfield felt like to me. The entire time I was playing it, it felt like, look at what we can do. I don't care. I know what we can do. All right? I've seen what we can do. We're at the absolute height of what we can do for many years to come. Make something interesting, you know?
Yeah, and that even is kind of like a segue that we're going to come back to whenever we get into the more of the Sony stuff and the newsy parts of everything.
I'm going to be very ranty today.
Oh yeah, the one thing that I just kind of wanted to mention on what you were saying, I kind of came to a realization when we were talking. You know, the last video game Crash kind of worked out the same way as what we're hurtling towards right now. Hubris and sunk costs, effectively combined, are what really led to the last Crash. We have an oversaturation of games or types of games in the market. Everyone and their mother thinks that they want to, they're going to chase the trends, but this time it's different in that these games now cost multiple millions of dollars and require for them to be profitable either literally every single person who owns a console to have a copy of that game, or having a small handful of people just spending all of the money and all of the land on microtransactions.
The people who are making these games should no longer be thinking like if you look at your cost evaluation and you're like, we have to sell this much money to make back, you need to make a smaller game. And that's not going to hurt anything. Just make a smaller fucking game, Like, it is. It's all about hubris. But moving on so we could get through the fan traction. Jason continued, I love GTAO, but then they just jumped the shark. It was the first online game since City of Heroes /Villains. I had a regular crew I played with a rather interesting composition. Me, a hick from America, a businessman from Algeria, a pair of friends from Egypt, and a woman from Scotland. Then he continues. Grounded and State of Decay 2 pulled me from GTAO, and the group fell apart. I still log in every Thursday or Friday to spin the wheel, but I haven't played much except for a couple of the updates since 2020. But I still keep it in my HD because, I don't know, nostalgia? ? Hey man, here's the thing. Me and Neil have very specific opinions about games. Those are not going to mirror everybody's opinions here. You like a game, we bitch about it. Doesn't mean it's bad to you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want anybody out there listening to us to think we're judging you guys for your game choices ever. GTAO never connected with me in a way that I would have liked it to, and I would have liked And with all the stuff they poured into GTAO, I would have liked some of that resources to go to the one that did connect to me, which was Red Dead Online. So that's just something that I hate about that. But liking a game, there's nothing wrong with that, you know?
You know what does kind of make me wonder, just because of the previous thing that we were talking about, and now that's stuck in my craw at this point. What happens is, theoretical as it may sound, at this point, who knows? What happens if GTA 6 doesn't hit the targets they need to hit? Especially because it started its life, the GTA 5 at least, started its life as just a single player offline thing, and then it had the online component, and that's where it got its staying power. What if it's just not, it doesn't hit like it's supposed to? I mean, we thought when Cyberpunk came out, there's no way. In fact, I think we said these words at one point earlier on in the conversation about Cyberpunk. There's no way that this game can be bad when it comes out. And boy, howdy, were we wrong about that. I really wonder what the future holds, especially now that we have a game that took 8 years to make and was microwaved in 2 weeks.
Cyberpunk has definitely been my my never again moment, and my excitement level for Cyberpunk. But the thing is one of the things about Cyberpunk is they lied to us. They lied to us about a lot of stuff. When it really comes down to it. I don't necessarily think GTA has lied on 5, but are they going to lie on 6? Are they going to be able to pull this off? And if they do, how much does it cost versus how much do they have to make? We're back to this moment with the hubris, because the other thing I want to say is a lot of these games that these companies consider failures are successes. They sell tons of copies, but because they took so much to make, that they consider them failures. The Division 2 still has a huge player base. And Ubisoft has gone on records as saying that's a failure to them. Because they had to put so much fucking money into it. And it just comes down to hubris. And I have been very worried about Rockstar for a very long time. You consider the fact that they basically make a game every 6 years, maybe 10 years. The amount of money that they have to make to, feed that beast is insane to me. I mean, I think the thing with Rockstar is Rockstar's games have been so successful in the past that their investors and their stockholders give them a lot more leeway than they normally would, because they're like, hey, they're going to give us another GTA 5 and we're all going to be rich. But they're betting on one number once a decade, and that's insane. That's an insane idea to me. I think Rockstar is always teetering on the brink, especially since there have been some allegations coming out towards Rockstar and their work situations and whatnot. I think that could really kill them too, because we're in a new world, and they need to be very careful with how they move forward, I guess, is what we should say. Continuing, Jason then says, I don't even care about the Agatha thing or Daredevil. I'll watch Deadpool and Wolverine, but not really excited about it either. MCU just doesn't do it for me. Be excited for Deadpool Wolverine. It is magic. Magic. But I'm with you. I don't get excited for MCU either. I feel like it's just, it's litter at this point for me. It's just litter.
I still haven't learned my lesson.
That's fair. Like I said, I'm not trying to judge you for liking it. It's just, for me, it's just it's just trash on my news feed at this point, because they've run out of new ideas. In my opinion, they've run out of new ideas so long ago that I can't keep following them or following them down roads.
And all of these stories that have been coming out, like the recent stuff that came out about the whole disconnect between the Multiverse of Madness and the WandaVision series. Basically, I don't know if you had seen or not, but one hand was not aware of what the other was doing, and even Elizabeth Olsen was like, "Hey, have you guys actually read the script?" Because they just turned her into a villain because. And apparently, it's been confirmed at this point. Like there was a totally different movie made, written at least. And they were like, no, we don't want to do any of that. We want to make our own movie. And there's just been so much. MCU is just so tied up. And
the problem with MCU is, as interesting as it was, and as groundbreaking as it was to do a shared universe of movies when they first started, they are too shared now. Like, there is too many things. There's too much content coming out to try and keep it all new and interesting, and somehow also connect it to the wider story at large. Like, it's too much. It's too much to like stay in. Basically,
it's a homework show now.
Yeah.
A homework series at this point.
Yeah.
Like if you haven't kept up, like I've seen every single MCU connected thing.
Right.
So at this point, like I'm just rolling with it. Imagine like having a 10-year-old right now and like, never watching any of the movies somehow, and
they're
be
never
like,
getting
hey,
into it. Yeah.
Hey, you want to watch this one thing here? There are 33 other movies as well as 6 shows that you need to watch before you can watch this.
I would be surprised if your count isn't too low. Personally, I think there's at least like 13 shows at this point. But yeah, I completely agree. It's ridiculous. It's super amount of homework. Finally, Jason says Dracula and Trevor Belmont were put into Dead by Daylight with Alucard as a legendary skin for Belmont. I know, I don't want to pay money for it, but it looks really cool. Just really cool to have them in there, to be honest. The only thing is Belmont like fought and killed them. So if you're playing a survivor, I don't see you fighting and killing anything with him. Like, I know how Dead by Daylight works. You're gonna be running. Like, that's what survivors do. So that'll be kind of weird. But other than that, it looks really cool. And so fan interaction is complete. We're gonna take a quick break.
It's complete.
And come back with anger.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, everybody, as previously mentioned, we're not doing a talking point today because we've got a lot of news to talk about, and they're going to be very ranty, crappy, shitty news stories. I actually have one today, so I'm just going to start off with mine, and then Neil's going to hit us with all the other crap, and I'm going to go nuts about it. So, my first one that I want to talk about is Undead Labs finally, well, I don't want to say finally, but announced that they are no longer working on State of Decay 2. So all of the updates, the DLCs and whatnot, basically they're going to, the seasonal stuff, they'll transition to making that just available all the time. They have one more update coming, I believe, and then after that, they are moving to State of Decay 3. First of all, I have some mixed feelings about this. My first feeling is, I think State of Decay 2 was an incredible success. I love that game. I think they did a lot of really good work on it. I mean, you could just go back in my channel. I have literally documented something like 11 communities through streams in playlists you could go check out. I think that, like, it's been a great game. All of the updates have been good and concise and well done. I am very nervous for State of Decay 3. Incredibly nervous for State of Decay 3. There was some things they talked about in this as to what State of Decay 3 is going to be. They specifically used like this is the evolution of the franchise. They want to all move to making State of Decay 3, which the Coalition is already working on. The Coalition, right? The people who work on Gears, that's Coalition, right?
Yes.
Then they also said that like State of Decay 3 is going to be like some cool stuff for State of Decay 3, but also some shitty stuff, because they said it's going to be a truly open co-op world owned by multiple players. However, they also said that because Obsidian is under the same umbrella as Xbox, as State of Decay, as Undead Labs, Grounded actually shared with Undead Labs their technology about their independent servers. They're like their private servers or whatever. And so like some of the stuff they had said is that like multiple people will be able to play into one. So if this is like dedicated servers and like I can set up a server where I can invite 25 people and they all exist on the same map and they can log in at any time and make their own communities and stuff, that's going to be really fucking cool. It's going to be really cool because I'll be able to play it solo just like I played it before, but I'll also be able to play it with them. My problem, though, is we just have this, like... there's just such a bad taste in my mouth with games as service-y things and language used to describe games as service-y things. Some of that was in this press release.
There's a lot of euphemisms now.
Yeah, and I'm very afraid that like my State of Decay 2, which was awesome, instead of getting dedicated servers where like me and Jason can be in the same game and have our own communities and interact with each other on the same map and whatever, that would be really cool. But instead of that, we're going to get some sort of perpetual online microtransaction fuckfest. I'm very scared they're going to do that to my State of Decay 3. The other thing is, as I have previously said, any game that started development under Microsoft's banner has been shitty, okay? Just has, with the exception of like Hi-Fi Rush. Every time they buy these companies, there'll be one game that comes out, that game they were already working on, and then the next game is shit. And like, I'm very scared that's because State of Decay 3 has been completely developed under Xbox's banner, that we're going to get that again. And it just makes me very nervous, you know?
If I remember correctly, was State of Decay 3, I think it was announced in 2019?
Actually, I think it was before then, but yeah, it was a while ago. It was at an award show, if I believe.
Yes,
yeah.
Because I think it was the same time that the Series X got shown.
I think so.
Because I think I remember Kayla dying on your couch. At that point, that was before the dark times.
Before the dark times, yeah.
Before the dark times, yeah. It doesn't. With the euphemisms there, also coupled with the fact that it's taken so long. I'm sure.
Well, and you've got the Gears of War guys working on it, like,
yeah.
And now we've got Grounded with their hands in it. Like, okay, so we got 3 developers working on this. Like, I don't know. State of Decay 2 had a lot of bugs when it launched, and I would never say it's a perfectly polished game, but it's incredibly fun and it's incredibly good at doing what it wants to do, you know? And I liked that aspect about it. This one makes me very scared. The other thing I'm really nervous they're going to take out is the procedurally generated characters. That would like ruin it for me. It would just completely ruin it for me if I'm playing one character and everybody else is playing one character and we're all contributing to one community. I don't want to be tied to somebody that heavily. Like, I love multiplayer experiences with dedicated servers where we can both interact with the world and be on at the same time, but we're not required to be there, you know? I'm very afraid that we're going to end up getting this like perpetual online world zombie shooter thing. And I don't want that. I want my procedurally generated communities that I have to manage, you know?
Yeah, and I really think that's what you're about to get.
Yeah, I'm very scared.
K3.
Very scared. Very scared. That was my one news thing, man.
All right. Let's hit you with the newsening. There's been a whole hell of a lot. Let's just go with the biggest one.
Okay, I'm going to be interested to hear what you think the biggest one is.
Man, that's the thing. There's been so much.
It's been a shit week, man. It's been a shit week.
So let's go with let's just kind of put a bow on the Sony stuff.
Okay.
So the PS5 Pro has officially been announced. It's got basically the same everything. I think it has increased storage, but outside of that, basically it's a slim with the same processor. It has a better GPU in it. You can see your games just a tiny bit better, apparently. They're now promising 4K 60 frames a second across the board, across all games, and decided to show us basically super old, relatively speaking, PS5 games that already look pretty darn good anyways. I couldn't tell how you'd be able to see it any better. They also announced that this thing is going to cost $700. $700. And it doesn't even come with a disk drive. You have to buy the disk drive separate. This has led to a gold rush of people now buying up all of the physical disk drives. They're sold out at multiple retailers and have already made their way online for scalping, where you'll be able to pick them up for $150, $200 a piece, something like that, to put your grand total back to where roughly the PS5 was midway through the scalping scenario back in the day. The controllers, before this was announced, they had been mentioning about how there were price increases. We even talked about price increases on the PS5 everywhere but the US. However, the controllers across the whole world went up $5 extra as well.
Yep.
So the controllers are now $5 more expensive, have no additional features. The PS5 Pro is $700 if you want just the digital version. If you want it with the disk drive and everything too, I believe the disk drive goes for $80, $70, something like that. After tax, that'll put you over $800. If you have a PS5 Pro or a PS5 right now, the launch edition with the disk drive, which I have, for the price and what you get, you objectively have a better product. They have not cut the price of the previous generation of the consoles at all. If anything, like we mentioned, they've gotten a price increase in other markets. And I don't think I put this down here, but they're talking about the trade-in offers available. The PS5 with the disk drive, if I remember correctly, because I didn't put the article down here, is trading in for more than the slim version or the digital-only version because of its inclusion of a disk drive. They're even marketing it. Somebody had said that we had talked about whenever we just briefly talked about this on, I believe it was Monday night. Somebody had even said that it's priced solely because they're intending for people to trade their old consoles in.
To where?
To GameStop, as long as it's still kicking around.
I was going to say, keep going.
It's still kicking around. But on top of that, there was also a statement made that, well, they can charge as much as they want for the PS5 Pro because there's no competition. Because the only real competition that they have is Microsoft, and Microsoft hasn't been able to get its head out of its ass now for 4 years.
I disagree with a lot of statements there, but let's get into this. First of all, do you know how you can tell when something's bad? Neil can't see this, but I'm going to show everybody out there. This is the picture that IGN posted of their editorial of this price change. Neil, just so you know, it's the picture of the PlayStation 5 Pro on a desert with a bunch of money around it and a skull. If IGN is blasting you, the consummate knob gobblers of the video game world, you're doing something wrong.
Just to quickly interject there, sure, because you brought up IGN, they did a poll. They did multiple polls, one with Next Gen Console Watch and one just a general poll as to whether or not people will or will not be buying the PS5 Pro and what the acceptable price was. Basically everybody said, nah, not buying it, and the price, the $700 price, is way too much.
I think this is the crash. This has been the crash coming for a while. We have seen this expedition of price hikes, and also this is the first time in the history of the world of video gaming where a mid-generation console refresh on technology costs more, not less, than the original console did. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Microsoft just hiked up all their prices on their new consoles and then promised that they're not making the old consoles anymore. So you have to pay more for the less. You have Sony now asking for $700, right? With the disk drive, you're going to be looking at like $50 to $200, I think, or whatever, the side disk drive or whatever. By the time Scalpers are done with it, that's $900, people. I could build you a PC for $900 that will do everything that game system will do, and probably have a longevity well past it. We don't have that much money. I'm going to say this right now, collectively, to the game companies out there. I know you don't listen to my show. Obviously you don't. But if any of you do, I'm going to say this. I'm speaking for the people out there buying video games. We don't have the money. You are looking at potential recession, economic problems all over the world. People don't have this much money to spend on a fucking video game system. Okay, we don't have it. Sony, Phil Spencer, we don't have it. All right, so chill. The other thing is too, we are rapidly approaching what I am now going to name the PC singularity, because guys, we are real close to it being a whole lot cheaper to just get a PC. Like, and that's the thing that I would argue is they said there's no reasonable competition for Sony. First of all, Microsoft is a reasonable competition for Sony. I don't like saying that. I don't like saying it, but they are. They just are. Sorry. Their system is right up there with Sony's. It is. And whatever Sony's promising is not going to be that much better than Microsoft is giving you. So there is a console alternative. There is also another alternative, which is a personal computer. There is. Right now, if you spend even $1,000 to $1,200 on a PC, you can build it, and it will last you 10 years. I basically guarantee it. Because mine is on 5, and I'm going to get another 6 out of it, I assure you. Like, the advancements that are being made in gaming technology are not enough to warrant these prices. They're just not. And the problem is like, the technology required to do this may cost that much for them, but it's not enough of an actual gain for a consumer to go, yeah, I want that, you know? And that's why we're witnessing AAA gaming crash. Right here, right now, we are in it. Because I don't believe Sony is going to sell enough of these things to make their nut. And Sony is already in a lot of hot water with the fact that they don't own Activision. Just sales are down across the board. You've got Microsoft on the other side telling people they just need a fucking Fire Stick and a controller, while they're also marketing their consoles at $50 to $100 more than they were in the beginning, and then telling us you can't get the old stuff. There is like the idea, and I know that there's a bunch of people in the boardroom saying the consumers will pay it. The consumers will pay it, and we have. I mean, the reason they're saying that is for 24 plus years of just slowly hiking this shit up. We have paid it. There's going to be a point where the consumers aren't going to play it. And I think we're there. I don't think anybody is going to spend $700 for this PS Pro. Not like this. I mean, maybe fucking rich douchebags might, but not your average Joe who wants to play this with a Madden game or whatever. They're not going to go out and spend $700 on this. They're just not. I don't think it is realistic to think that they are. I think we're well past the point of realistic pricing right now. I think this also signals just how out of touch. I know I've said this a bunch of times. I think this is the absolute cap. How out of touch these companies are with their consumer base. whoever they are selling this system to does not exist. They don't exist. The people they think are going to buy this don't exist. Not in the amounts that they need to make it worth it.
Especially with the whole story of this generation, especially on the PlayStation side, just because Microsoft has their own problems with first-party stuff. But nobody's felt that the tech has really been taken advantage of yet.
No.
And especially, too, when you think about how game development goes and how console life cycles are now. Basically, consoles used to last like 10-ish years. Mm-hmm. As time has gone on, it's cut down a little bit more. 7 to 8 is now the general rule of thumb for a console lifespan. But games back then in like the Xbox 360 era or so would only take maybe 2 years, 3 years, 4 if it was a real banger.
Yep. They only cost $50, and they didn't need to sell half as much as they do now. And
now, the games cost $70. They cost way more. 200 to 100, depending on like what edition you get. If you wanted to, pay the extra $30 to play the game 3 days early, not me, fam. But with the cost of making these games and the development cycle of them, now games take like 6-ish years. So you're starting to build a game that's not even going to be playable on the current consoles that are out yet. I mean, hell, look at Cyberpunk. They jumped through two life cycles, 2 console generations. They started developing it with the 360 and PS3 in mind. Mm-hmm. It didn't technically come out until the the Series X PS5 generation, and that's only because the Xbox One and PS4 versions of them barely functioned at all.
But they still had them too. I think
they
that
had them too. Yeah, they're still releasing games for the previous generations too.
Well, and that's the other thing. Both these companies have said there is already another console on the way. They're already working on another console. There's another Xbox and there's another PlayStation already being worked on. It's been confirmed. So so you want us to buy these? You want us to spend $700 now and then spend another $900 in 3 years, 4 years? This is insane. This is and again, I don't know how much more I can say, but these people are crazy. Game development company, AAA gaming, from the consoles to the games, they have all lost their fucking minds. They are absolutely, completely out of touch with what people want. I mean, and it goes back to Concord. People didn't buy Concord because it was $40 fucking for a free-to-play game. You're completely out of touch with the people and what they actually want to buy and play. The games that are going crazy, the games that are getting sold are indie games. Those are the games that you hear about every day. Those are the games that are look at this fucking thing. That's where it is. And those people, they have a 2 to 3 year turnaround. Unless it's a 1 or 2 person staff, and at that point you can take 8 years to make a game. You're only paying 3 people. There's no there's no shoulda. There's nobody being stop what you're doing, take a breath, think about this. It is just vomit out another copy, put higher prices on things. The consumers will pay it. The consumers won't pay it. We don't have the fucking money, all right? We don't have the fucking money, all right? It's just that simple. You look at just everything's on there. Inflation, everything. Everybody has less money than they did 5 years ago, okay? I'm not getting into politics. That's just the way the world has gone, okay? And you want to charge us $200 more for a system? We don't have it. It's that simple. And I feel there's going to be a point where these idiot fucking rich assholes at the top of these companies are going to finally be like, oh, there's nobody to buy these, you know?
I think if they tried this pricing out with the new generation, whenever the PlayStation 6 rolls around, I think people would be more receptive to it, strictly because it could be billed as a brand new thing.
The problem is, and I see where you're coming from. I think it would be more acceptable, but
it doesn't make anything better. But it would be more acceptable.
You and I know what. Like, we're not the smartest electronic people there is, but we have been doing this long enough to know what games can do and what gaming can be right now and how much better it can get. Okay? It can't. So, like, this pricing for even that would be not enough, in my opinion. Would there be as much outrage if it wasn't a mid-generation refresh? I don't think so. I agree with that. However, I still don't think anybody's buying it. Nobody has the money for them. And what I'm worried about is they're doing this on a mid-generation. They're upping it on a mid-generation so that when the new one comes out, they can charge almost as much as a PC.
Yeah, and that there is what's going to be the breaking point, I feel like, because this is what they did with games on a larger scale. Because when this generation first kicked around, remember we were talking about it, it was going to be the generation where their games are going to start costing $70 instead of $60. And we had said it's just a matter of if they can get away with it. If they can get away with it, totally fine. Absolutely. That's the new norm. And that's what's going to happen now. Granted, like on a purely technical level, technically, objectively, regardless of all other external factors, for what the machine can do for $700, yeah, great, cool, fine. It makes sense. That also said, like you mentioned, for the same price, or let's just say screw it at this point, if you're going to have to spend $700 every 6 years, let's say in the span of 12 years, you're spending $1,400. Take $1,000, build yourself a good PC, and then towards the end of that PC's life, get an older generation video card that'll get you through a little bit longer. It's the same thing with more utility.
Yeah, and less money. Way less money.
And less money overall in the end.
Well, and the thing now, I'm sorry. Keep going.
I was just going to say, but now this gives Microsoft carte blanche when they launch their next Xbox, because I don't think their hardware refresh going through right now, and it's nothing to shake a stick at. Whenever they do their next actual console refresh, guaranteed, I would put a pizza on it that they're going to start at $700 as well.
I think they'll start at $700 and Sony will be at $800. And I think, maybe, depending on how this PS Pro goes, because I don't think PS Pro is going to sell. I don't think the new Xboxes are going to sell. I don't think either one of them are going to sell. I don't think Xbox is going to give a shit, though, because I think they're making all their money on Game Pass, and that's what they market. Like, buy a controller and a Fire Stick, you can play Game Pass. Like, that was their whole fucking thing. Like, they don't give a shit about their consoles as much. I think they'll stay liquid a lot longer, especially since they own all the franchises, the big AAA franchises. That being said, I would even go back to the gaming and argue that the price hike up to $70 has not worked. Like, if you really look at the games since we've gone to $70, how many of them have hit at a $70 price tag and actually been truly successful at a $70 price tag? You got maybe a handful. Most of them, it's too much. Most of them are too much. I mean, really, there's Baldur's Gate 3, right? Name one in the last 2 years that was like, this is the shit. You have to own this. You have to get it. It's not in Game Pass. Remember that. It's not in Game Pass, and people were actually paying $70 for it. The last $70 game I paid for was a sports game, and I think those guys are still doing fine, but everybody else, I don't think anybody else is making the money. I don't think they're making enough money. I don't think they make the money until it goes on sale. I mean, I spent too much money on Skull and Bones. I've already admitted that on this podcast. I had a lot of fun with it. I feel like it was worth it, but it was too much money. That being said, they came out and said, we didn't make enough on that to start. They've made all their money on sales. like once it's gone on sale. I don't think the price hike worked. And it's another one of these AAA things that's like, well, let's just charge them more money. I think we're getting, the last 2 or 3 years, people have really started to say no. And I think that's why we're in the crash, because people don't have it. They don't have the money to spend on these fucking things. People, like, I'm not buying games for that much. I'm buying games for like $20, $30. They're all indie games. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not buying AAA games at $70. I mean, obviously I just said Skull and Bones, but other than that, like, you know what I mean? Like, nobody's buying these.
Yeah, I almost wonder if the $70 thing is also being used in such a way, almost like how the deluxe and pre-orders and everything, like we kind of alluded to before, you want to spend $100 on the deluxe edition and play the game 3 days early, sort of thing. It could be like another like tier of the early adopter sort of fees. It's just charged in a different way. It's not marketed as a premium thing, like, oh, this is what the price is, but we're also secretly saying, let's see how many of you idiots will buy things at $70 before we put it on sale. And and to be absolutely fair, I was actually thinking about it, and I was like, I haven't spent that much money on $70 games. No, I have spent a decent amount of money on $70 games, and not a single one of the ones that I've spent $70 on, well, no, two of them I would say that I'm glad that I bought it when I did and didn't wait. Baldur's Gate and Tears of the Kingdom. Right. Outside of that,
and I get those. I mean,
those are the ones that you're talking about, though. Those are the ones that are like, hey, man, like, you got to have this shit. Like I said, like I did with Street Fighter 6. Knew I was going to do it. I told myself not to do it. I still went out and did it and bought it at $70. And sure enough, I have played it. I have booted that game up 3 times since I've owned it.
And it's been on sale 3 times since then, like, so, and I'm not even trying to insult you. Everybody does that sometimes, It's just, for me, that's how I was the 2 years before this. This year, since my last birthday, I've just gotten really, like, frugal with this stuff and just been like, wait a second, I'm not going to buy this first day. I'm going to see, like, is it going to, like, if it's in Game Pass, okay, but I'm not going to just go drop $70 and say I absolutely have to. Like, Baldur's Gate 3, I actually didn't pay $70 for it. I believe that ended up being a present from Phil, I want to say, for, like, Christmas or something. But I got it with gift cards. All in all, $70 purchase games in the last 2 years. I have spent $70 on WWE 2K24, and I spent more than $70 on Skull and Bones. Other than that, I haven't purchased anything for $70. Like, outright. I've just waited. Like, I at least wait until I see a review, or see the how people respond to it. So many times, too. I'm glad I did, because I'm like, oh, if I bought that, I'd be pissed,
Right.
I think we've covered it. I think that we are in a terrible state for gaming, and it sucks to do this podcast now because I only see death and gloom. I am literally the hobo on the corner with the sign that says the end times are coming. like that's what I am right now, because that's all I see. I don't see these companies surviving. I don't see them lasting. I don't think that, like, I think we're in real trouble if we're Sony, okay? And I think if this thing doesn't sell, and I don't think it's going to sell, we're in real trouble for the next generation and what that price is going to be and what people are going to be willing to spend on it.
Well, let's just keep the shit sandwich train
Do it.
rolling along here. Microsoft is laying off another 650 people.
Yep.
Morale is at an absolute all-time low at the company, according to Tom Warren over at Tech for Gamers. When he was talking to people for this story, both employees and like middle management are just like they just see the gallows every day that they go in at this point. This is absolutely ridiculous too, because they have now felt that it's necessary that when the announcement is made that they said, oh, no companies or projects are going to be affected by these layoffs. So they're now tempering us with, it's like the same thing that they do with announcements of there being a trailer, like, or of a conference or whatever. But hey, ABC XYZ isn't going to be there, so chill out. Doing the same sort of thing, saying, hey, don't get your panties in a wad. It's just people who don't make the games. Like, that makes it any better. On top of that, they knew that this was going to be a bad thing, because they were ordered, when this news came out, for Microsoft socials to go dark that day, because they knew that people were going to be bombarding every single social post with how terrible that they are, that they're laying people off and all that stuff. Especially after that whole feel the burn controller thing at the beginning of the year. They didn't repeat of that. Or maybe you should just not lie to people and say that you aren't going to lay off a shitload of people when a deal closes.
And then and then nonstop lay people off.
Nonstop lay people off. Yeah, this now, the total layoffs, I think, at Microsoft now is like over 1,500, I think, for the year.
Yeah.
It's insane. Absolute insanity.
Yeah, especially since their like global net worth is like more than it's like a percentage of our debt to China. Like, it's like, that's something that bothers me too. Like, you have a company, like, we're not talking about like just a company, just another company that didn't sell enough, you know, which is bad enough in itself, but like, we're talking about Microsoft here. You're like the third biggest technological company in the world. You're telling me you can't pay 650 people? Like, I think that like it's just garbage. And I'll tell you this, flip side, if they really can't pay these 650 people, and like it's like, hey, we don't have the money, then we're in trouble. I mean, this is more indicative of the trouble. And it all comes from this, like, we don't make enough as an industry, you know, with what we're producing. We take too long to make the games. We charge too much for the games. We don't sell enough of the games, but the games cost too much to make. Like, this is just going to keep happening.
It's almost like there's a crash coming or something.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't think it's coming. I think we're in it. We're in it. The fire has started. We're watching the house burn right now, and it just sucks. It sucks. I hope those people bounce back. It blows for the industry and for everything. Especially when, like, Microsoft, when they're buying these companies, is promising stability. You know, like, that was one of their big arguments in the FTC trial, was we're giving stability to a company that didn't have stability before us. Okay, well, those 650 people and the other, 1,500 don't feel the stability right now, champ. So you're definitely like, they're definitely selling shit they're not actually delivering on.
Mm-hmm. So moving on here. So I guess Rocksteady is laying off about half of its QA playtesting department. And when asked, questioned about it, why they're doing it, it's because of how bad Suicide Squad was. That's what it is. Definitely had nothing to do with the conceptualization and the fact that it was a live service game, among all the other things.
Well,
yeah, but the playtesters are the ones who screwed everything up, so they need to be punished.
I do want to say this. and I am not defending these big companies, but I do want to say there were so many bugs in Suicide Squad when it came out that if you're going to lay off anybody, it better be from the QA testing, because they had a bug that made it so that people would automatically complete the game when they started.
The second you turned it on,
they had another bug that basically shut the entire pre-order early access thing down. Like, those people are supposed to catch it. Now, I am sure they were already overworked, and it's possible that they caught all of that and put that forth to somebody and were like, we're going to ship the game anyway, and then they're using him as a scapegoat. I don't know the internal politics, but like, if you're going to lay off people, the only ones I think you can get away with are the people who were supposed to be making that game not buggy as all fucking hell. That being said, again, you guys made a shitty game. You made a shitty game that nobody wanted, that everybody told you they didn't want. Not only did you make a shitty game that everybody told you they didn't want, that they didn't want, but you used that game to ruin games people actually love. Like, the amount of fucking up that happened there, like, it's ridiculous, you know?
The one thing that I might push back on just a little bit.
You're fine.
Is, you know, I think of it this way, just because we've talked about our infamous cake analogy before, but let's think about
Return of the cake.
Now, have you ever made a pie from scratch before?
Yeah.
Okay, so a from scratch pie, top to bottom, is gonna take you at least an hour and a half, 2 hours, easy. Making the dough, cutting the vegetables, the fruit down, or whatever
fucked
pie.
Up pie.
This is your vegetable rhubarb pie. In my mind, I'm thinking of an apple pie, just because this is the time of year, you know, that's when I start making apple pies. So, you know,
when I'm thinking of pie, if anybody wants to know, it's always a cherry. Always a cherry pie. Fuck you. It's the best pie.
I hate cherries.
I love that's
cherry pie.
I don't like cherries, but I like cherry pie for some reason. I love cherry pie. It's my favorite
impromptu vote for comments next week. Cherry pie or apple pie?
Oh, I'm going to lose that one, but I don't care. I love cherry pie. I like apple pie too, though. Apple pie is my close second. Like, I am always down for apple pie, and I'm a pie over cake guy. Just for everybody out there. I'm one of those motherfuckers. I'm a pie over cake guy.
I prefer cookie cake over birthday cake, so that's
Neil, sometimes you are the measure of hedonism sometimes. You're like, you know what I prefer? A cookie that is also a cake.
Yes. But getting back to it here.
Yeah, go for it.
You know, this pie would take it, let's just say 2 hours to make.
Okay.
Let's say, you know, you're in the process of making this pie, and crap, you know, I ran out of this thing. I don't have this. I need to go to the store and get this ingredient, or, you know, maybe redo this part. I may have to have this pie take longer to make because I either don't have the ingredients or messed a step up.
Right.
What I feel happened is they were told, hey, look, this pie needed to be done in 2 hours. You're on track for making it be done in 6 hours. You're only going to get 3 hours, and then that's it.
Yeah.
You know, at that point, then, you know, a playtester only tests what's in front of them. They can send that report back and say, you know, oh, hey, this is all the stuff. And it's like, fuck it, we'll fix it in post.
And I totally agree. That's one of the things I said was, like, I don't know what happened on the inside. I can't say, like, what the playtesters had to go through. So, like, I'm not necessarily trying to say that the playtesters did bad and they should be laid off. I'm just saying that when you look at just from the outside, without knowing of any of the internal facts, you look at the things that went wrong with the game, and then who should be laid off first. I honestly think you should lay off the writers first, but right after them, I would probably lay off the QA guys.
No, whoever thought of this game of like what it could have been and what they made it be.
Well,
Whoever was the one who made that decision, I think, is the first head that needed to roll.
Well, and that's the problem. Those heads are always the heads that are making other people roll, not the heads that get
Right.
rolled. The problem is really at the end of the day, QA testers, writers, developers, whatever, nobody was like, I don't think any of them were sitting in a room like, you know what we should do? You know, I think that there was a developer who was like, how do we make this into a games of service? Because that's what we need to do. Well, how do we make this Destiny? You know, and I think that like they're the problem. That being said, all I was saying was like, with the amount of bugs in here, you laying off the QA department looks less bad than laying off a different department, you know?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I want to just say one more time, never advocating for a company. That's not what I was doing. I was just making an interesting observation.
Let me see here. I want to make sure that we're through. Yeah, I think we're through all the absolutely horrendous things. Now it's just
bad.
kind of funny, odd, derpy, doofy. Let's start with a palate cleanser. Did you hear what Concord players were doing before they shut the servers down?
I'm sure I might have.
So basically, whenever they announced that the servers were going to go offline, the announcement was made like 2 or 3 days beforehand, and everybody was just constantly getting in matches and throwing themselves off the ledge to gain a little bit of experience as fast as humanly possible, so they could get the platinum trophy.
Oh, I had heard about this. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, you think about like how many games went out there and still stayed in the wild for long enough to like, you know what I mean? Like this is a real solitary, interesting thing because it's a games of service game that was literally active for like 3 weeks. Like, and it's just kind of crazy. That got refunds. Like, it's just nuts. I do have one I want to add to this though.
Okay.
Because I want to make a crazy tinfoil hat prediction. I haven't done one of those in a while, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So the Tokyo Game Show is coming up, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it like beginning of October? It hasn't happened yet, right?
No, it hasn't happened yet, but I think it's coming here soon.
Microsoft has confirmed it's going to be at the Tokyo Game Show. It's actually going to have a presence there, which, let's face it, they've very rarely had presence at the Tokyo Game Show. Mm-hmm. And then there was those comments about there being no competition for the PlayStation in that market. I am going to say this now. I'm probably wrong, but if I'm right, I'm going to look like a genius. I think that we're going to see Game Pass be announced for PlayStation.
That would be wild.
That would be absolutely wild, but I think that if you look at the writing on the walls, like since the Activision thing has happened, PlayStation has been way nicer to Xbox. We've been playing buddy, and this is what Phil Spencer wanted the whole time. Like, this is what he wants. He wants to have enough games to where Sony can't say no to having Game Pass on their service anymore. So I think that's what his overall goal is. So tinfoil hat prediction, probably going to be wrong, but I'm not going to be surprised if at Tokyo 24 we hear that Game Pass is going to PlayStation in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I do wonder if something like that would happen here in the future. I feel like some announcement like that would be reserved for Keighley's Winterfuck Fest. I feel like this is the Tokyo Game Show is going to be like there. I don't think there's going to be anything hardware. I don't think there's going to be anything massive news or anything like that.
I mean, this wouldn't be hardware though. This would be kind of like a software edition. It would be massive. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, for sure.
You also heard about the whole Xbox getting knocked by the one developers, right? I sent it to you. I think you responded to it. The Entropia or Entoria.
Oh yeah, I think that was that was one of the things that we missed, I think, because
Okay.
that news had.
Sorry, guys,
They come
we're
out
all
with-
over the place. I want to.
Yeah, all over
I do
the
want
place
to
with that.
just mention this real quick. So there is a Souls-like game. It got like a 7 out of 10. They like it, but it's all right. It's based on Italian folklore though, which is a little bit different, and it's called Enotria. Enotria came out for PlayStation and PC, and people are like, "Where's the Xbox version?" And the developer like fucking tore into Xbox, like online, which very rarely happens. But they like first they were like. They said something like, "Sorry, Xbox fans, we've tried, but Xbox isn't making it easy for us." And then in their private Discord, they were like with an AMA, and people were like, "Where's the Xbox version?" They were like, "We have tried so many times to get this on Xbox. Xbox won't talk to us. They won't even like we have one slight like hiccup of like how to like a software thing about how to upload it to a thing for certification, and it won't go through, and they won't tell us why. They won't talk to us. They won't take our calls. They won't respond to us. Xbox has completely and 100% dropped the ball on this. They don't care about you. They don't care about us." And I was like, hot damn for a developer to say that. I was like, whoa, man, spicy. But I give him props for the balls on that. Somebody had to say it.
Yeah, and it was like a day or two afterwards. Phil Spencer himself got personally involved and gave us a sad apology. Oh my goodness, this should never have happened.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
we'll work better to.
Oh, we'll work better. We don't really care, but I'm just gonna say this so that you're not as mad. But it doesn't matter because if you want to play Call of Duty, it's me now. You know.
Right. So going along here.
Sure.
Unity is getting rid of that runtime fee that we talked about. You remember that it was like per install and everything like that.
Yeah, they were going to lose
they're,
a lot of people because of that. A lot of
Yeah,
developers.
everybody. There's a lot of people who have already moved on to other engines, development software, and everything to replace it. If I remember correctly, there was something about there's still some partnerships, depending on the size of the game, that will still have that as a result. But
they've been slowly walking this back.
Yeah, and you know, heads rolled for the announcement of this thing.
Yeah,
so,
a lot of CEOs lost their job, which is
they
a
wanted
nice
to
change of
die
pace.
on that hill, and they did, and immediately like turned around because it was like a year ago or so.
Yeah, I think Cult of the Lamb were one of the people. Were the people leading the charge. They were like, just so that everybody knows, get your game now, get it downloaded, because when this goes into effect, we will take it down. We will rebuild the game from scratch to put it in something else. Like, I was like, okay, all right. I mean, it was a stupid idea in the first place. Honestly,
Yeah, it was
a really stupid idea. And it could have been handled even better, even the way they wanted to do it.
Even that, even just handling it better, that could have happened. So moving on from there, have you seen the Minecraft movie trailer?
Oh god.
Have
The
you?
fuck is happening with that? I've only seen like bits and pieces of it. I haven't seen the whole thing, but just like the bits and pieces I've seen are like, nope.
Yeah,
I want no part of this.
That is the general consensus of the internet. Internet said nope across the board for multiple things and reasons. I don't even know where to begin with it. I mean, it's so bad. Like, there was somebody who went through and did like a fix of the trailer and just made the animals and everything like blocky, not like the weird CG hyper realistic square adjacent. And I believe it's got more positive reactions already than the actual trailer.
The trailer is super fucking weird.
It's so weird. It's so generic. I don't. It gives me vibes of almost like the Borderlands movie. Like, why are we doing this? Like, in general, I do have a question why.
When the Borderlands movie, I was all on board for with the cast until they started until that trailer, that first trailer. I was like, oh no,
The trailer was bad, and then a PG-13 rating.
Yeah.
And then they showed that one snippet during I think it was the Super Bowl or around the Super Bowl, to where it just looked like it was shot like a bad SNL skit.
Mm-hmm.
We got Kevin Hart as Roland. Like, still haven't seen it yet. I'm waiting for it because I was going to. Oh no, I am now, after watching Madam Web, I'm all about the terrible, horrendous movies.
That's fine.
I got so much mileage out of that.
I'm too old. Life is too short for me to spend any fucking time on that train wreck.
I'm just waiting for it to, because I looked into it the other day and it's still $20.
If I'm going to hate watch something and make fun of it, it's going to be me and my wife, and we're going to pick a Hallmark Christmas movie. And it is going to be nonstop laughter. I'm not going to watch Borderlands shit all over not my childhood, but my youth, I suppose, and hate watch it. I'm sure there'll be a couple of laughs in there. I'm not going to do it. There's better things for me to do than that. So you'll have to tell me what you think about it.
So from there, the European Consumer Protection Agency is proposing a ban on microtransactions, or at least regulations against them.
Good.
Mostly centering on premium currency and how it is marketed. Because I had not purchased anything with premium currency in a while on any game. It was Halo 5 was the last time that I actually put any money into like a loot boxy situation.
Yeah.
And it was only ever like $1, $2 here and there whenever I was, feeling frisky. Until Street Fighter 6, one of the 3 times that I booted it up, and Bison launched. Bison is my main character constantly. I was so hyped for that. Went up the day that it launched, and I noticed something because of how they have. This is very common with all of these. You already know what I'm going to say.
The leftover.
Because of the price that they charge for the character in the increments that you can buy the fight money, which is the premium currency in. You have to basically spend. It was like $24 to get Bison, and I have just a pile of fight money still sitting there
that you can't spend anything.
That I can't do anything with.
Yeah.
So like the next time I go to buy a character, I'll only have to spend like $12 or something like that for the everything with it. But like,
it's still very obnoxious.
It's still obnoxious. It's ridiculous, and it's one of those things that you look at it and it's like, now there's no way that this is accidental. There's no way that this isn't accidental.
I mean, you're talking about levels of code at that point. I have only bought premium currency once. I bought it on For Honor. I spent, I think, $20, and I got $20 worth of premium currency that I spent exactly $20 on. So, like, that I was okay with, especially since the game was in Game Pass. I'd played it for over 10 years. I was like, I'm going to drop some dollars on it, Other than that, I don't think I've ever purchased a premium currency in the entire history of my life. That being said, I'm very aware of these scams. They'll have them where it's like, you get, especially in games where you can earn the premium currency in some way, shape, or form, because there are games like that, and it'll be like, you got, you spend $10, and you get like 1,000 premium currencies, but everything costs 950. Like, you're milking me for 50 cents here, not giving me it. It's kind of ridiculous. What bothers me is, like, it's stupid. Because, like with Bison, just charge $24. The people are going to buy it for $24. Just charge $24. Instead of trying to, like, it's a digital arbitrary cost. So why are you trying to, like, milk currency out of us that doesn't mean anything? Like, just charge $24 for it. Or charge $24 in premium currency for it. Why do this weird leftover thing? It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
And what's really dumb about that typically, too, is, like, in my case, doing that, like, granted, I bought, like, there's, like, extra stuff that goes along with him, too. So, I mean, the character himself wasn't $24, but it was, like,
Right.
$24 worth of stuff that I bought. But had I instead just spent the extra $6, I could have got the season pass and got everything else. But in my case, I really didn't care about anything else, and it's one of those things to where it has this third level of dumb where it makes you realize that and makes you feel stupid.
Right.
That's why I hate that sort of stuff, that predatory marketing and tactics and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. It's very annoying. It is extremely annoying. Yeah. Yeah.
So one last one here.
I actually have two more, weirdly enough.
You have
They're quick ones, though. They're quick ones. I forgot I had them, but I realized I had them while we were talking.
Okay. Well, I'll just do this one here, and then we'll do yours.
Go for it.
So, thieves in Japan robbed a store that sold Pokemon cards. Apparently, though, they had this place marked and knew nothing about Pokemon cards. Apparently, according to the police report associated with this, the guys broke into the store and asked the workers what was actually worth stealing because they had no clue. They wound up making off with about $70,000 effectively worth of Pokemon cards. I just think that's hilarious that it's like, I'm going to go steal a specific thing that has an inherent value, but only in certain circumstances, and I'm not going to make myself aware of those circumstances.
That is hysterical. That's very hysterical. Okay, so my two turned into one. My one is I actually have to throw a little mud at an indie developer for a change. So Mirthwood was supposed to come out on the 11th, last week on the 11th. 2 days, not even 2 days. It was a day prior to it coming out. They delayed it for 2 months. Look, if you need to delay a game, that's fine. Okay? I get it. It's fine. It happens. However, there's no fucking way that you didn't know you were going to have to delay this before 24 hours prior to its release for 2 months. Okay, if you had to delay it for 2 months, there's no way you couldn't have told people well before the release date. But yeah, I was going to set up a stream on Wednesday, and it was like, this has been delayed. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? All the way to November 6th. So, look, I like indie developers. I like indie games. I understand it's hard, and I understand sometimes maybe you get a little overzealous. You put a release day out there you can't make. 2 days? You're telling me you didn't know you were gonna delay this at least a week in advance? If you're gonna delay it for a full 2 months, like, it would be one thing if they delayed. Hey, we gotta push it back a week. Okay, all right, something came up that's gonna take that long to work on it. I get it, but 2 months, that's insane. So, yeah. So, got to throw a little mud their way. A little obnoxious.
Yeah, that's one of those things, that, like you'd mentioned, like, there's no way that you didn't know.
Right.
Ahead of time.
Right.
Unless it was some sort of, like, if they had said, hey, man, we found some catastrophic shit that slipped everything, and it's like, you know, the world would end if we put this.
All they said was they needed to polish it more, and that they wanted to deliver a really good experience to their players. Which, that's bullshit. All right, like for a 2-day release, you need to. You gotta know before that. You know, I don't see any scenario where you don't know. I mean, unless, like you said, they go on their Discord and be like, "Hey, we were playing it, and it exploded." You know, like 2 months is just a crazy amount of time to delay for when you're 2 days before release.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
The other thing I was going to talk about was Towerborn, but it has turned it around apparently because it released to a mostly negative review on Steam, the early access, but now it's mostly positive. So But like when I first went over to it to check it out, like all the reviews were like, you can't matchmake on it. Oh no, you have to matchmake on it, and the matchmaking doesn't work. You can't go into like an open world. You have to like, oh no, you can't matchmake on it. They were like, you straight up can't matchmake on it. You have to know the people, and you have to play with them, even though it's a multiplayer game, and it's always online. But you can't just get paired with people. You have to invite them. There's a bunch of other things that people have problems with, bugginess and whatnot. But it's turned it around since their first patch, and it's mostly positive now, which is a bummer, because everybody should be pissed about that game even coming out. But I can't review it unless I own it, so I cannot review bomb it and be like, you should not be here.
Oh, you can't review it unless you own it?
I don't think so. I think you actually have to purchase it, because it lists, like, when you post a review, it lists like how many hours you have on record. It lists whether you got refunded for it, whether you got it as a gift. Like, I don't think you can post a review without actually playing it for some period of time.
Yeah, it's looking like you're not able to. I know in some things you can.
Definitely some things.
You can do that.
Definitely some things. Not Steam though. So I wish I could just put it up there and be like, negative review. You should not be here. This should be on Game Pass. This is a money grubbing piece of shit way to like get extra dollars out of us, but can't do it. So that's all I had.
Alrighty.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to be done with the show, guys. Nice long show for you all to make up for us missing you.
Show.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the show and the shameless self-promotion that comes with it. Neil, what would you like to plug?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to plug something else from my normal pluggage, just because Kayla actually made me aware of this earlier today.
Okay.
We're at 502 subscribers.
Mm-hmm. I actually posted a post about it.
You did? I didn't see it.
Of course you didn't. Of course you didn't. This is what I work with, everybody. I posted it on Discord, and I posted it on our YouTube channel. But we're at 502 subscribers. We have actually made 500.
That is insane to think about.
It's
absolutely insane to think about.
It's insane.
So yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for that, guys. I do appreciate it. It gives me/we a reason to keep doing this.
It does.
Every Sunday, or as many Sundays as we can physically actually.
It is. It. You know, the amount of money I make off this and other endeavors, comparative to the amount of work, is not there. So it is very rewarding that we are actually reaching, at the very least, 500 people we have reached in the expanse of this existing. And just try and envision 500 people in your head. Like, I couldn't fit 500 people in my house. You know, like that's a pretty big thing. And I'm very proud of it. And I do want to say thank you to everybody out there who has seen it in their hearts to actually press the subscribe button on our dumb asses. It is very honorable.
Emphasis on the asses.
Emphasis on the asses. Emphasis on the dumb. Emphasis on the whole thing. Dumb asses. Nonetheless, we have a lot of videos, all sorts of videos. We do role-playing game stuff now, too. We're everywhere, man. The algorithm cannot pin us down.
No.
It has no idea what to do with us. Okay, so as far as I am concerned for plugs, I do want to say really quickly, I did a review. I've got a couple of reviews coming. I did a review on Wayfinder, which was really interesting. So you guys could go check that out. I don't know if you longtime listeners of the podcast, you might remember I was very excited for this game in 2021 and 2022. Then it came out and it was a fucking train wreck. And then I didn't do anything with it and I stepped away from it. And it went on sale and they changed a bunch of stuff. And I actually really like it. I think if they stick with it, it could be a No Man's Sky sort of situation. They're doing good work. So hopefully they don't, go under with that one. But check out my review. It came out on Saturday. I'm very proud of it. I have reviews coming. I'm not going to give dates or time, but I will tell you guys the game. I'm reviewing Genshin Impact. I am reviewing Riders Republic. And I'm going to review that Skyrim Castles game, or the Elder Scrolls Castles game for my phone. Those three are coming. I don't know what the dates are going to be. They're just coming. All right. Other than that, you can check out everything we have to offer. We have gaming videos. We have TTRPG videos. We have podcasts. We have just fucking everything under the sun. If you would like to give us some money for some merchandise, you may hop on over to wizardsrespite.com. Under the shop tab, you click on Old Man Gaming. We have 3 shirts there available for you guys to purchase. And yeah, other than that, you can reach us on Facebook at Old Man Gaming DH, on X at Old Man Gaming 9. You can also join our Discord. Links in the description below. Influence this and all of our shows from there. And as long as you guys keep watching, you keep listening, we'll endeavor to keep making them. See you guys next week. In the form of audio or visual. Pause.
So yeah, just to touch base earlier when I text you back. So we had, what Kayla and I always end up doing is on like a Saturday or Sunday, we take turns every week and we do like a breakfasty, lunchy thing as like a little date thing. Okay. And I got the idea because I was off this past week. I was like, well, it's my turn this week. And because, football's on today, what if we do like for lunch, I just get like pizza or wings? And she was like, yeah, I don't know which one I'd want. I maybe want pizza from here, or maybe wings from here. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, man, though, pizza and wings sounds pretty good. So then last night, basically we got blitzed, and I just did this thought process basically was all in my own head. I didn't vocalize any of this. I was like, oh man, what if we do both? What if we do both of those things and I just make 2 separate stops? Mm-hmm. So then I had mentioned to her when I was like, okay, well, did we decide what we want to do? She's like, I'm thinking maybe wings. And I'm like, I thought we were going to go with pizza. I'm like, you know what? I'll do both of them. She was like, oh, you'll do pizza and wings. And I'm looking at the prices stuff. So I'm like, it would probably be better if we do wings from Wingstop. And then I'll just get some like pizza from Little Caesars or something like that. Something relatively cheap.
Okay.
And she was like, oh, okay. And she's like, you want to see if like my cousins want to come over? I'm like, yeah, sure, cool, whatever. So they were down to do it too. So I'm like, damn, I need to get more food now. And then we were talking about how, because we were getting lit last night, we were talking about Taco Bell, and they were talking about Taco Bell at that point too. I was like, well, fuck, let's get some Taco Bell too. So I'm like, now I have placed an order for pickup at Wingstop, at Taco Bell, and at Little Caesars.
Oh my God. That's a quest at that point.
Well, the best part is over near me, they're all on the same, 2 of them are in the same exact building, just on opposite sides of the building. And then the Taco Bell is right across the street, so I could hit them bing bang boom real quick.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And then I was like, oh man, we don't have anything to drink. And I'm like, let's just fucking keep rolling with this. And I went to McDonald's to pick up McDonald's Coke. I walked in there and they're busy as all shit.
Yeah.
And the girl just like frantic, like, what's your order? And I'm just like, this is going to be really easy for you. 4 large Cokes. And she's like, oh, thank God. I'm just like, I came back into the house with just piles of food and made the joke. It's like, I'm like Thanos out here collecting infinity stones. Just grabbing from different places. And then after all of that, Kayla's one cousin ordered ice cream for us, and when we picked up ice cream.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, we had stuff from 5 different places.
So we got to get this done because you got to shit. That's what it boils down to.
That'll be tomorrow.
Oh, okay. All right.
That'll be tomorrow.
If I eat that kind of food, it's happening within like an hour or 2. My body's like, oh no, we got to make room. Get this out.